Hi, and welcome to the end of week 8 and the start of week 9, which is our last week. So at this point, you really should be moving into your final exam. Just to let you know, the extra credit, it's out of 100 points, but I will readjust that. I may offer another extra credit opportunity this week. If not, don't freak out if you see 10 out of 100 for your extra credit. I will kind of balance that out towards the end. I always allow at least some extra wiggle room in our discussion area and also in the grading area. In relation to the work that you're going to be doing for this week, you should be moving on to your last readings, which are Thomas Pynchon's Entropy, Susan Le Guin's Schrodinger's Cat, and Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five. You'll also be reading John Carver's Cathedral, Reed's Neo-Hoodoo Manifesto, and Jasmine Lahari's Sexy. And so this will be our last reading cycle and our last discussion board. The final is, of course, open this week, so I would go ahead, and many of you have been going in and completing it, so please do take a look at that and start working on that. This week 9, of course, is focused on moving into the 60s and, of course, postmodernity and postcolonialism. And so this kind of gives you quickly up to speed. So go ahead and take a look at that. As far as week 8 goes, I'd like to just kind of go through the postings that you made, just like we've been doing. I do hope that this type of feedback or this type of discussion has been helpful for you. I find that personally myself that I like to have these discussions with you because they're more like a traditional classroom in some ways. I know that it's kind of me talking towards you instead of a conversation, but I hope that it has been helpful. So just to let you know, most of you during week 8 mentioned the prevalence of alcohol and kind of this notion of kind of almost being disjointed or chemically impaired. And I think that that is something that is a large indicator of the literature in that kind of transition between the purely modern and, of course, the postmodern. Sarah, you mentioned that John Cheever's The Swimmer really captured the rise of the middle class, and this is absolutely accurate. Christopher mentioned, in reference to Flannery O'Connor's story, The Good Country People, that the author is telling you not to stereotype, this idea that you can't judge a book by the cover. Joseph Freeman had a great point about these stories illustrating the impact of the characters' choices as well as showing others taking advantage of them. So that kind of internal and external monologue. Sherry, great reading of The Swimmer, that it is a dark tale, but that it is in some ways so engaging that you almost look beyond the darkness. Melvin, great reading of Good Country People. I like that you focus on the idea of PTSD in this work and the effects of the mind and damage on the mind in relation to these characters. Lindsay, nice interpretation of symbols, is particular in regards to The Swimmer, the idea of the empty house, empty family, empty Nettie. Mark, great reading of Saul Bellows. Read it to understand it. Great posting. I know that many of you had some issues with Saul Bellows' Augie March tale, and I would strongly recommend you to take a look at Mark's posting if you would like a little more insight, because he had some good points. Christopher, great observation about history's relationship to literature. And I also like that you kind of connected it to your personal stories in relation to loss of limbs and loss of movement. Megan, great connection between the house and Nettie. Kevin, nice focus on the debates on religion, i.e. God. The idea of the Bible salesman as kind of being this symbol or archetype of the debate or dichotomy in religion. Ashlyn, excellent posting, nice interpretation of knowledge and smarts, or the interpretation of knowledge and or common sense in Good Country People. Jason, good reading of The Swimmer. Chandra, I really liked the way that you used humor or read humor in Augie March. It was an interesting take, and I think that many people do overlook that story because it is a little bit of a difficult read, and I think you did a great job with it. Ryan, I'm sorry about the timeout with Blackboard. It does sometimes happen, unfortunately. But you had a great connection between the seasons and the symbols, or seasons as symbols, in the swimmer. Ansley, nice engagement with Flannery O'Connor's Good Country People. And O'Connor's an interesting character herself. I would highly recommend you look at her biography, anyone who's interested. She lived an unconventional life in many ways. Jennifer, thanks for pointing out the focus on thought instead of plot in these stories, and really the interior landscape is much richer in these than we might say in the beginning. Like Chickamauga's action is all plot driven, whereas the interiority of thought in Nettie is kind of different. Jordan, great focus on style in Bello. Edmund, easier to read. I like that you focused on these texts and how you can connect with them in a different way. Jonathan, I love your notion of the sadness and slowness in The Swimmer, and also your focus on the rise of the middle class. Quenisha, great summaries of the readings. Philip, I like that you pointed out that these readings, particularly The Swimmer, left you with more questions than answers. And that, in many ways, is what is happening in modernity and postmodernity, is that the text itself is becoming a playground or a field of questioning. Gregory, I really liked your idea that these texts just really did lack a political and social agenda, or an overt political and social agenda in the writings. Force, I love that you focus on the harsh reality of aging, in particular in relation to The Swimmer. Russell, great focus on the characters, and remember, just like Flaubert says, an author in his work must be like God in the universe, present everywhere and visible nowhere. And these texts really do allow the characters to shine. Roderick, nice point about the readings and reflecting on them. Charles, great reading of Good Country People. I like that you saw it as being chock full of lessons. Roderick, nice point about the readings reflecting changes brought by the Depression and World War II, but also the influence of education and technology on these moments and experiences. Jessica, great reflection of turmoil in the story, that it wasn't overt, but it was just beneath the surface and you could feel it. That's a great point of view. Vance, I like that you saw the influences in these texts from the prior readings. John, great reading of Bellows. I like that you point that he is much more a local color writer. An excellent focus on Bellows' connection with Heraclitus, the connection with the Greek gods, with Cheever's use of mythology. That is a great connection there, and I appreciate it greatly. Jeremy, good reading of The Swimmer as a representation of our lives. Carrie, excellent posting. I strongly recommend everyone go ahead and read Carrie Ballard's post. Camilla, I like that you highlighted the struggle that you had with Bello, because many people also had a struggle with this. Emily, yes, it's almost over. I can't believe it's went like that. It's been so quick. And I hope that you continue to read and continue to engage. You had a great reading of The Swimmer, by the way. Jason, I like that you related it to suburbia and kind of added those layers of confusion and alcohol into The Swimmer and your reading of The Swimmer. Juan, I like that you posted out the rich in life morality in the text, that it really does speak on an individual level. And I think that you had a nice connection to Cheever's biography. This was a good reading. And Miranda, I like that you focused in that the story was The Swimmer was an exceptional story. It wasn't uplifting, but it was still painfully beautiful. And I think that that's where we really are at this point as we head into postmodernity. You're going to be reading stories that you're like, why am I enjoying this when it's so disturbing? But at the same point, it's so lush and so rich that you find yourself enjoying it. Anyway, if you do have any questions as you're going through the final or the last readings, please feel free to reach out to me. Use Blackboard IM, use Skype, or use Ask Your Instructor or the email. I look forward to seeing your final exams and your last postings. Thanks so much and have a great day.